Hello to all my YouTube family. This is Elijah I. Rubin, the fire damage king himself. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance and how to sell a fire damaged property if that's what you elect to do. The typical process when you're looking to sell a fire damaged property, one of the first things you're going to do, you're going to contact a realtor. Preferably, make sure you put together a list of some questions. You want to make sure that the right realtor understands how to kind of navigate in these treacherous waters, if you will. The average realtor is not going to be able to sell a fire damaged property. The average realtor will tell you they can, but they probably can't. And this is your family, and this is your financial stability moving forward. So you want to make sure you have a list of questions, kind of like, have you sold fire damaged properties before? Are you familiar with the zoning permits? Do you know how to anticipate values? So they can really price your property accordingly. Those are going to be one of the first things you're going to do when you look into selling your fire damaged property. So when you're using a realtor and you're selling the property retail, you're going to have to either A, make the repairs yourself, or if you don't make the repairs, you're going to have to discount the property. But not just commissions, not just closing costs. You have to discount it extremes amount, because you have to discount heavily because of these various factors. One, you're looking at the fact that you have time for claims, you have times for permits, time for zoning, time to get certificate occupancies. On top of it, you have trusses, you have ground, you have integrity compromised, you have walls that could have been compromised. These all have to be kind of prorated in your equation of what you're going to sell your property for, because you can ask for whatever you want. You can ask for $2 million for your property. If it's not worth that amount and you're not pricing it accordingly where somebody else could fix it up and possibly live in it where it's not over encumbered, or they want to make sure that there's a little profit margin if it's an investor. So either one of those situations you deal with, you're going to want to make sure that you price it accordingly. So when you're selling your fire damaged property, that's going to be very important that you have to disclose there was a fire damage at some point. If somebody died there, you have to disclose that. An animal passed away, you have to disclose that. Because if you decide not to disclose that, there's an assurance, it's called a clue report on your insurance. Anybody could pull this up and see on your clue report that there's a fire. And if there's a fire and you didn't disclose, that could cause some liability, some legal liability for you. And that's the last thing you need to deal with after dealing with the whole ordeal of passing a fire damage type property. And so when you're dealing with selling your property, like I said, you're going to want to get a knowledgeable contractor in place, preferably a restoration company if you could, but you have to realize they're going to be premium dollar amounts. But the cost of doing it wrong is going to cost you a lot more in a long scope of time. On top of that, you want to make sure that you bring in possible appraiser. You want to know exactly what the house can be worth after it's finished repaired. I highly recommend bringing in a possible engineer just to make sure somebody's dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and make sure that you have somebody looking over your numbers to make sure this can't come back to bite you once it's all fixed up 5-6 months down the road. When you're dealing with your contractor, ask for a list of reference. Ask him what's the average time for him to obtain a certificate of occupancy. Ask him how to kind of insulate for the smoke smells, the odors that could come with this, because these are all the various things that most people don't think about until after the house is rebuilt, substandard work's been completed, and now you have to fork out more money out of your personal pocket because all the insurance money's been spent. These are the things you want to do proactively if you decide to fix up the property and sell it yourself. Some of the main things that really need to be repaired on a lot of these properties, you're going to look at for truss. A lot of the truss gets damaged due to smoke damage. You're going to want to look at, like I said, the air duct system, the HVAC system. You're going to want to look at if any of the pipes and the plumbing have been compromised. You definitely want to look at the walls and the flooring integrity to make sure those haven't been compromised. In addition to that, you want to look at the roof lining. So when you have the flashing on the sides, you want to make sure if the truss were damaged, there's a good chance your roof flashing and the sides have been damaged too. And these are the things that people try to wait or skip out. If you do that, it could cost you more in the long run. Odors and smoke damage is a big item that a lot of people don't realize. They think they could just throw a bucket of paint over it, but there's certain chemicals you have to use so that you can legally obtain your certificate of occupancy, because if somebody breathes those poisonous chemicals from the smoke inhalants, that when certain paint and certain materials that was used prior to 1979 have asbestos in there, and when certain things heat up, when certain chemicals heat up at these extreme temperatures in a fire, they release chemicals in the house that you can't see, but you're inhaling them. And just because you put a coat of paint over it, you could be liable if somebody else you sell that property to and they are breathing these chemicals, these poisonous chemicals, and they test it and you didn't disclose it. More importantly, you didn't fix it the right way. You could be liable. So these are some of the things you want to be aware of. You want to correct the odors, you want to check the chemicals, and you want to make sure all the smoke damage and all the smoke has been removed from the house using the proper steps that a lot of really knowledgeable restoration companies or contractors should give you the step-by-step play to kind of get those removed. But if they don't tell you, it's your responsibility to bring it up. I'd like to be able to add this other piece, what most people don't take into account. It's time frame, okay? Because what happens is if you decide to fix the property up, which you're more than capable of, I laid out several things you want to do when you talk with contractor, restoration companies, realtors. What you want to really do, if you decide to use one of them, or if you decide to sell the property to our company, what you really want to kind of take into account is this. You want to look at what is it that you want to get accomplished. What's more important to you? Is it the peace of mind? Is it moving on? Is it keeping the house? Is it keeping the kids in the neighborhood? These are some of the things you want to take in consideration, because depending on what your end goal is, there's going to be different time frames. And not having the right professionals and right specialists as part of this can really hurt your finances and give you and really make it a struggle to survive and thrive well after the fire damage. Meaning, if the contractor doesn't know how to obtain the right certificate of occupancy, if they pull the wrong permits, if they guess wrong on material, if the labor cost is all disorganized, these are things that you're not going to be really able to anticipate up front unless you do a lot of these. You might get stuck kind of holding the bill, and this takes a lot more time frames. That's why I really want to plead with you guys to make sure you take the time to write out your questions and interview a couple people. This is your livelihood. This is your family's life. Make sure you invest the time to find out if you're working with specialists, professionals, or call us and I can provide you with a list of our preferred vendors. If you decide to keep your house, I want to add as much value and help you, like I said, not only survive this fire, but thrive well after the fire. So when a client decides to make the decision to sell the house, kind of what we're able to do, we're kind of able to kind of walk them through the whole process, let them know if they don't want to wait the several months to obtain certificate of occupancy, if they don't have the ability to find out all the various ways to remove the chemicals, they don't have the time to find contractors. We are able to kind of step in and just pay cash for the property, help them transition a new property, and we kind of take on the liability, give them peace of mind if that's what they decide to do. The value of not having to guess what the house is going to sell for, when it's going to sell. We kind of bring a peace of mind, a sense of calmness, and a sense of end sight up front. We're able to give you the light at the end of the tunnel and bring that light a lot closer, because we're the ones who are going to pay cash for the property. We work out a number that works for you. We make it a win-win for both of us, and more importantly, we handle everything from point A to point Z, so you don't have to deal with any of the BS. And I think that gives a sense of, a sense of peace and a mindset to knowing that I'm not going to deal with this for 5, 6, 7 months while I'm still working with my whole life. I think there's a lot of value that comes with some certainty, and I think that's what we're able to bring to the table and collapse those time frames for you. This is your guy, Elijah I. Rubin. I thank you guys for taking all the time to really lock in with me. I hope that I gave you tremendous value and gave you some good nuggets to think about. Regardless of what you decide to do, please give us a call. I definitely want to hear from you. Let me see what I can do to be a blessing. Each one teach one, each one reach one. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode.